Hey guys, what's up? It's Jacob Sage here, and I am coming at you today with a review and kind of like a comparison video to these two Jackson 7 strings that I own currently. This one is the Jackson Js22-7. It's the DKA, so it's a dinky. And then we have the predecessor to that, which is the Jackson 32-7 DKA in the quilt maple finish. So there's not really too much going into these two instruments. The only difference really for these is that they have a different style of pickups and that the price point is different on these. So we'll start with this one. This one is the cheapest one and the cheapest 7-string offering that, from what I remember, Jackson even has. And this one, starting brand new, is $200. This one I think is an older model. I'm not too sure. They've had these for quite a while, but the newer ones these days are a little different than this one, but it also might be the same one. I'm not completely sure because I couldn't find too much on the original ones. But for this one, for what I know, the specs on it are, I do know that it is a basswood body, gloss black finish like always, rosewood fretboard, maple neck. This one is a nice and like almost natural feeling, which usually these come with gloss necks. So whoever had this before me, because these are two used guitars, but whoever had this before me probably sanded it down, unless it came like that. I'm not sure. But it has Jackson tuners. They're branded tuners. It has a dual action truss rod. Has a single volume, single tone, 3-way toggle. Jackson's own stock pickups, their own bridge, own everything. Bolt-on, pretty simple guitar. If this one is what I'm thinking it is, then this one has a 25.5-inch scale, which is really the big difference between these two, and the only real difference between the older ones compared to the newer ones, because the newer ones, I think all the starter Jacksons now they start with a 26.5-inch scale, so that is really nice in my opinion. Later on in the video, I will be doing a tone demo of both these guitars, and there is a big difference that you'll be able to tell with these guitars. But yes, this is the first one, which is the Jackson JS22, and I will probably do my thoughts at the end of the video after I've gone through the tone demos and all that. But let's move on to the next guitar. Okay, so now we have the Jackson JS32-7 DKA quilt maple, and this one comes with a quilt maple top, depending on the one that you get, because they have like 3 different versions of this. So they have this one, which is the quilt maple version. They have one where it's just plain white, and then they have one that's just plain black, so just like the other one. But this one, pretty much the same specs as the other one. The only mild thing, like the only difference with this one, is that it doesn't have soap bar pickups. It has DiMarzio style pickups in this. It also has white binding. This one also has a 26.5-inch scale, which is going to be, if you consider that a baritone scale, then, that's personal preference on that part. But personally, I do like the 26.5-inch scale on this a little bit better. I think it's, it's either mahogany or basswood. Pretty sure it's basswood. For the body, it could be poplar. I don't know. I'm reading these specs, but sometimes these specs aren't the most reliable. But the only difference between these ones too is that these guitars, it's the price difference for one. Tonality is a little different too, but honestly, there's not really too much of a difference. The first one and the demos that you'll be about to hear in a minute, everything on the guitars is the same as when it goes to like hardware, other than the pickups. The pickups are different, but the string gauges are the same, which is the D'Addario nickel wound light tot heavy bottom, which is an 8-string set. I just take out the 64 in there and just use 10 to 74. And then the tuning is drop F sharp. So that is one other thing with this. Yeah, let's get into the demo.
cleanse it of its unworthy soul. Enter this body and cleanse it of its unworthy soul.
So my final thoughts on these two guitars is that there is obviously a difference in quality-wise. The JS22 pickups are a little weaker than the 32s. I think the 32s have a lot higher of an output, so you're most likely going to want to upgrade the JS22. But at the same time, it also goes to be said, like I've said in the beginning here, that the JS22 is $200 as opposed to the JS32, which ranges from like $400 to $500 depending on what retailer you go through to buy it. You can do Guitar Center, fucking Sweetwater, it really doesn't matter. Whatever you prefer. You can find these relatively cheap on the used market. You can find the 22 on Reverb probably for like $100, maybe even cheaper than that, depends on who's selling it. You can find the 32 on Reverb as well, or wherever you decide to buy it on. I don't know, I got mine used for $200 and then I got the other one traded through a trade. So it's really the only difference with them, but in my opinion I like the JS32 a lot better, mostly because this one has that 32-inch scale, not 32, holy shit, 26.5-inch scale, and it has the pickups are a lot hotter in this one, so honestly this one just sounds much better. You know, they relatively both hold the same tuning pretty well. There's not really too much of a difference with that. I mean, I would say upgrade them to locking tuners down the line if you want to. That's personal preference. You know, if you like the tuners, then keep them, but if you don't, then change them out. The nut seems to be fine on them. Doesn't seem to snag. I mean, on the JS22 it did on one string, but it was only for a minute, and then it never did it again. Like I said, the only real thing is that the pickups are vastly different when it goes to tonality, because, like I said, the JS32 pickups are a lot hotter, and the JS22 ones are a little bit weaker. They still sound good. It's just, you know, you're gonna be far off better using the 32 if you're going to be like tracking or something like that, as opposed to using the JS22. But you can also upgrade the pickups down the line, so that is an option. But to wrap everything up, I suggest just try these guitars out on your own. You know, I've seen people ask about them and say, like, you know, they ask how they are and all that, and I'm just like, I mean, I think they're fine for what they are. You know, they're cheap guitars and all that, but you know, some of these companies are making cheap guitars that play just as good as a fucking not a $5,000, but like a, you know, $1,000 guitar or something like that. Because, you know, the only quality difference in something like that is that there's a lot more care put into those guitars, as opposed to something like these ones where, you know, they're kind of just thrown together. There is some QC involved and all that, and, you know, they're just sent off to be bought. And like I said, they sound good. They both play very nicely, and they both hold tune very nicely. The bridges are actually pretty nice. I do like the bridge and how they feel. I like how the necks feel on both of them. I like how the neck on the JS22 feels a little bit more because of the almost satin finish, but you can also, if it's a gloss finish, you can just do the old Scotch-Brite trick, which is what I did on this one, and all you got to do is just take it and then just lightly sand it, and eventually this will happen and your finish will come off a little bit. Just don't go too far, because you don't want to, you know, fuck up your neck or anything like that. And I was going to mention that too, that the necks are fairly thin on these ones, not like Ibanez thin or anything like that, like no wizard necks or anything like that, but it's still thin enough to where it's going to be comfortable, and you can play fast and all that. And here for the demos, I'm just all about those fucking chugs and all that. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about these. I'll leave links to the guitars in the description, and I'll leave my social medias if you want to go follow me or anything like that. I do have a TikTok, I have Instagram, stuff like that. I don't really use TikTok all that often, so it's not really my thing. But yeah, subscribe if you like the video. I'll be doing more videos eventually. I might do individual reviews on their own of these guitars, but I'm also thinking about doing a review on a bass here coming up, so we'll see. And if you're also curious, the tone that I'm using for my guitars, I'm using the Fortin Nameless Suite from Neural DSP and Fortin Amps. I'm using the factory setting of, I think it's the 7-string, number 5, something like that. It's just one of their factory settings for 7-string guitars. But there's that, and then for the bass, I mean, who fucking cares about the bass? And then for my drums, I use the Mjolnir from Solemn Tones, and then I use Reaper as my DAW. So, yep. But that's all I got to say. Subscribe, like I said. Follow me on social media. I will catch you guys in another video. Later.